Well, welcome everyone. This is super wonderful. I'm so excited to have everyone here for our second of three. We're right smack dab in the middle, right in that sweet spot. Our second ever Future Week 5-4 workshop series. I know all of you are applauding, but you're on mute because we about that. So super happy to have everyone here today. I'm going to toss it over to my best friend and a wonderful person, Georgia. Georgia, are you going to get us started today?
I'm going to get us started. I'm going to move to the gallery view. Hello, everybody. Lovely to see your faces. Happy Thursday, I think, is what day it is today, but time is meaningless. So hello, Karen. Nice to see you. Great. Well, I wanted to start off today like we started off last week with just hearing a couple reflections from people. We've got some new people joining us. We've got some folks that weren't able to join last week and are joining this week for the first time, people that are back from last week. So yeah, are people feeling excited, anxious? How was your week? So go ahead and just, yeah, how you doing? Take yourself off mute and let me know. Anybody? I'll call on you. Melissa, I'm going to call on you because you're giggling over there. I see you. How are you feeling, Melissa?
I'm tired of making food for children. So
we can vision a world without that. Well, maybe not without food.
Without food?
Food for children.
I don't know how many of you, show of hands, have children. They eat all the time. They eat 3 square meals plus like 10 snacks in between each meal, and they don't do dishes, and they don't really do anything chore-wise. And I don't want them to be like, okay, they have to be productive members of the household, but for fuck's sake, they don't do anything but eat snacks. It's annoying. So, yay 2020! Hey. That's how I'm feeling. They're eating dinner right now.
Thanks, Mo. How are other folks feeling? Are people excited about doing some visioning? Were people rejuvenated at all through the week? Yeah, Wanda, what you got?
I was just gonna say, I started off Monday and Tuesday with dear loved ones evacuated at every single fire from Carmel all the way to Nevada County. And the friend of mine in Nevada County, his house and property was the defending line for the fire. And he just got, like, it was literally at his door, and we called for prayers, and for whatever reason it turned. And so I'm feeling really good. I'm feeling blessed. My loved ones are safe, and so is their property.
Yeah, well, thank you for sharing that, and I'm so grateful to hear that. You hear from one more person how you're feeling, yeah, go for it.
Hi everyone, my name is Heba, and I actually experienced some loss this morning, or learned of loss in the family this morning, and family members far away. I'm from Egypt, and it's sort of a god uncle that I lost this morning, but I feel like I've just been experiencing a lot of loss in 2020, and I don't know. I'm holding the space for all the grief and the loss that I'm feeling, but I'm also really grateful for the space. So thank you.
And thanks for sharing that, and and condolences for your loss. And it is so much grief this year. And so we wanted to really, like we did last week, but kind of sit with what we're trying to do in this space, which is hard, which is to try to carve out moments of joy and imagining and relaxation and space in a moment of time that is scary and hard and desperate, and from the fires to COVID to systemic racism, like the 2020 is a lot, and it's been a lot building on many years. And so the work that we're trying to do in finding joy is really hard. And so I don't want to miss that. What we want to start out with is to take some breaths together. So let me just jump back to gallery view. And so one of the things that we think about a lot, and what this space I know is for me, is that so often we get robbed of the ability to be present because we're pulled in so many different directions, And in order to survive in the world, we have to wear a kind of armor, and we have to guard ourselves from every direction. And so we don't get the relief of presence. And so I'd like to offer an invitation to everyone here, and everything in this session and all of the sessions are invitations, to take a couple breaths together and really try to be present. And so we'll take 3 breaths, and if everyone, if you're in a relatively quiet space, could come off mute. I'd like to, I know we're virtual, but I really miss breathing with folks. And so if we can at least hear each other breathe, I think that might be a nice way that we can connect. And so for the first breath, if you would join me, we'll do a breath that really focuses on our physical bodies and being present in our own bodies. Our second breath will be connecting to the ground and to the earth. And the third breath will be connecting to each other. So I invite you to go along with me or do your own thing, whatever feels right for you. But for the first breath, we'll put one hand on our chest and the other on our throat, and take a deep breath in and feel your heart come to meet your hand. And as you breathe out, kind of pinch your throat and let out a big hush and release all of that tension. And we'll do that one more time to really feel our chest rise. Breathe in. And feel the breath come out of your throat. And for the second breath, we'll plant firmly our feet on the ground and just take a minute. And I invite you to close your eyes and really feel the weight of your feet resting and rooted into the ground. Feel the weight of wherever you're sitting, of your body touching the land that supports you. And breathe in from wherever you're connected to the land, and feel that breath come all the way from the earth, all the way up into your throat. And let out all of that relaxation of abundance. And we'll breathe in again from all the way deep from the roots of the earth, through our body and out through our throat. And for the last breath, thinking, bringing our hands together and feeling our palms touch one another. And in our in-breath, thinking about all of the people for whom we are grateful, that have loved us into this moment, that have protected us, that have shown us how to survive, for the items that we carry, physical and non-physical. And we'll breathe in all of that gratitude. And we can let out the relief of abundance, that we have time. And we'll breathe in one more time and remember all of that gratitude. And one more out breath, remembering that we have always been enough, and we don't need to prove anything. And we'll end with just rubbing our hands together and really just feeling our bodies, shaking our shoulders, loosening up, and trying to build in some space to move around so we can actually imagine a world that doesn't exist yet. And that's part of why this is so hard, is because we haven't built it yet. And so this work is hard, and it is joyous, but it is powerful. And a thing that, Frailty Myths very much deeply believes is that the politic itself is in the play and in the practice, and demanding that we deserve space and abundance, and really taking hold of it. So thank you for that grounding moment. I deeply appreciate hearing all of y'all's breath. And with that, I will turn it over to, I think, Aaron, to Jonathan.
Yes, thank you so much. If we could get the slide deck up, yeah, also just settling in, appreciate the collective breath and getting grounded. Yeah, so really excited to have folks with us in the space tonight. And yeah, just like, yeah, I'm just really feeling that in my body. So really appreciate that grounding. It's been super hectic on my end, so that's always appreciative. But what we want to do is just quickly go through some group agreements, and then an agenda overview, and get us started for the day. Next slide. So a quick reminder for folks, if you haven't done so already, please make sure to update your name, pronouns, and location. We want folks to update their names so we know what to call you, your pronouns so we know what pronouns you use, and your location so we're aware of like where folks are at and kind of get a sense, as well as acknowledging what native land that we are on. So when folks have a moment to do that, please do that. Next slide. And so what we want to do is, again, just a quick refresher of group agreements. So one of the things that we really want to make sure we're holding in this space is like the ability for everyone to feel included and welcomed in this space and to engage in vulnerability, as again, we're doing this like really hard work of like visioning during a really hard, difficult, unprecedented time in our world. So some things that we're just using as like kind of guardrails to help us through our time together is one, using I statements, so speaking from the I. Two, understanding impact over intention. So the fact that we may say things and understanding that it may land for folks differently than the way we intended. Three, make space, take space. So just understanding that the fact that we want everyone to engage as they're willing and able. So definitely if you've been speaking a lot, I'm just thinking about ways that you could possibly take a step back and allow others to kind of step into this space. Next is just a general content warning. Again, today's theme, session 2, is around gender justice, and knowing that folks will be discussing and sharing and describing things that pertain to gender violence or other instances of oppression, and which leads us to our kind of last point, is to take care of yourself. So as we're tackling these really tough topics, also understanding that if you need to come off video, if you need to step away for a second, get some water, do what you need to do to show up in the space and be as present as you can. We welcome that, and we welcome folks to be in the space in ways that really feel good for them. So with that, I'm actually going to hand it over to Erin, who's going to take us through a quick go around.
Yes, thank you so much. As I said, your background, Jonathan, is always incredible, unprecedented. Yeah, super hello to everybody who's watching us live also too. I love it. Say hello to my mustard beanie. So look, y'all, we're here to really share our vision, to share what we're talking about in the future. I know a lot of the first workshop, we were talking about definitions and working on that, just trying to set the container, but really the goal of this is to really go and share and talk about what our vision is for the future and how we can think about moving those ideas forward. So in the spirit of that, we're going to start it out with a shabam, with a little bang, boom. So everyone should have their placards, right, where we are writing down the future that we're fighting for. So everybody maybe take a second, time is a concept. So take a little sec real quick, grab your placard, think about it. Mine is in my notebook here, boom. So everybody maybe take sex, a little quick little second or two, boop, boop, boop. I won't sing any songs that'll get us copywritten. Side note, that Cardi B Mix Stallion song is in my head, y'all. It's in my head. So really the only goal of this workshop is for me not to sing that song while we do this workshop. Great. So I'm gonna go to gallery view so I can see. Everybody can maybe kind of get their placards close. I love it, I love it. So we're gonna start out with absolutely what we're here to do, which is to share what our visions are. So I would love, maybe y'all can use the little hands up. There's a little hand up thing that you can do. Maybe you put your hand up, and who will be my first beautiful new best friend? I have a best friend, that's true. I'm sorry, Georgia, but a really good friend of mine, and will volunteer to go first and share their placard. Who's gonna share? Who wants to share? I already think you're amazing, whoever's gonna share, just so you know. I already think you're incredible. Yes, Karen, I knew it was gonna be you because you are incredible, yes. Give it to us, Karen, what you got?
Well, because I'm not very inventive. So my placard says that the future I'm fighting for includes everyone. And then I thought, well, everyone doesn't really include everyone. So then I had to add every plant, every animal. And then I thought, well, that really isn't everyone, because there's every fish and every bird and every gender and every race and every religion. But I'm not fighting for any viruses. That's real.
You know, 2020, you got to put that in there now. You got to put that in there now in 2020. I think that's real beautiful, Karen, especially the thought of, you know, we think about this a lot, right? Not just who's in the room, but who's not in the room. And, you know, so maybe that's something for us to think about too, as we go through this workshop and we're here with 24 incredible people, is for us to think about who is also not in the room with us and why. And what does that mean for what we're fighting? So that's beautiful, Karen. I really appreciate kind of opening up that concept. Also, as people may or may not know, when I was a child, I wanted my name to be Karen. So every time I see Karen, I'm a little jealous. My name's Erin, so I figured it'd be easy. Just drop a K, no big deal. All right. Who is next that's going to join us and share their placard of the future they're fighting for? Who's going to do it? Someone's thinking about it. I used to teach freshmen in college. I will call on people.
Okay, I'll do it. You don't have to call.
There it is. Thank you, Regine.
The future I fight for is polite to all. Polite. I think being polite goes a long way in helping communication, and it's not violent at all. So being polite.
Yeah. It's free. It's free to be polite to people. It don't cost nothing to say hello.
Right.
That's wonderful. That's a really wonderful thought. Every time I come to these workshops, someone just hits me something I didn't expect. Beautiful. That's so lovely. All right, who else has something to share? We got a couple minutes left.
Can I have?
Yes, go for it. Yes, love it.
Oh, okay. Mine is the future that I'm fighting for is one where the people knows that we have the power to change the things. So sometimes or mostly we are expecting someone to come and rescue us or someone to change the things, but everyone has that power. That's it. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful, beautiful. What does it mean if we're working from a politics of abundance as opposed to scarcity, right? What if we do have enough to change the world? That's a beautiful sentiment. Y'all just giving me a transformative Thursday. This is a wonderful future we're imagining. We have time, I think maybe for just maybe one or two more. Is anyone else? I'm looking at the time. Yes, go for it.
The future I am fighting for centers the well-being of Black and Indigenous peoples and the land. The land.
That last part. That's beautiful. Can I ask what made you add that part at the end about the land as well? Can I answer that?
Actually, that was all one for me because I see those things as pretty connected. But I also feel like it has to be called out explicitly because otherwise it kind of tends to not get centered. So.
You want to hold it up? Can I see it one more time? I missed it.
I didn't have a great piece of cardboard, but.
No, to be fair, also your background is giving me all of the vaporwave vibes, so I'm just trying to hold all that at once.
It is a lot.
It's wonderful. Awesome. Thank you so much, Althea. How are we doing on time? I think I got time for one more because this is my favorite part. So do we have time for one more? Who wants to give me something? Yes.
Let's try to get everybody who's got a sign to just read them.
Keep them coming. If Georgia says I have this one, this is it. Let's go. All right, so let's see. Is it Lily? Am I getting your name right?
Yeah, it's Lily. So the future I fight for has no invisible work.
Can you hold up your sign a little bit more?
Yeah.
Amazing.
Especially because it's facts.
Say that. Yes.
Do you mind saying just a second more? What do you mean when you say invisible work?
So I didn't have my notebook ready. And I was just taken on that we're talking about gender, and I'm listening to another mom talk about the mental load that we carry, but I also think about as a woman in the workplace, I'm also having to carry feelings and a bunch of stuff. And there's just a lot of things, especially now, we didn't value certain workers, and now they were super vital, and we're all realizing where the true engine of the economy sits. So for me, invisible work is making sure that we value everybody's contribution. Everybody brings something to this big old lovely baile. And so no invisible work means we value what everybody's contribution is in whatever way, shape, or form they bring it.
Absolutely. It's one of those phrases, right? There's no such thing as unskilled labor, right? Every labor that we do requires skill, right? So what an incredible sentiment. I really appreciate that. That's beautiful. Okay. I'll do one more because I'm trying to keep on schedule. So Susie, I just saw you, plus you have that dope background. So you want to hit me with it?
Hi everyone. I'm sorry I didn't make it to the last session, but I'm really stoked to be here. My sign is, I don't know if you can see it. I might have to turn my background off. Shit.
Getting lost in the galaxy.
I know. Yeah, that's it. That's my sign. It's just space. Okay. So it says the future I'm fighting for is queer and thriving. Bummer that you can't actually see that, but that's what it says. There it is.
Oh, there it is.
Yeah. Yeah, queer and thriving. is what was on my mind.
That's what they call synergy, Susie. We'll be talking about that term, queer. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Queer and thriving, those wonderful things together. Queer and thriving, right?
Yeah. And also just sort of like not queers as like individuals, but like the queer perspective on like queering things in the world as a way of inviting new relationships to ourselves and other humans and the earth.
Right. It's like when you realize that you learn that the globe that we see is upside down, right? It spins, right? So the fact that all these certain countries are on top and certain countries are bottom is just because that's the way that we want to show the globe, right? You could do it the other way. Doesn't make sense, right? It's just like how you see the world. That's beautiful.
In
Super
space, there is no up and down.
Look, let's bring it back to space, y'all. Always. Okay, so I'm gonna get in trouble. So just a reminder, we've got the altar, so make sure that you can put your stuff up there. We're gonna come back to that. You can put your stuff up on the altar on the Facebook page as well. So just make sure you share what y'all have. Those are beautiful placards. Everybody did such a wonderful job. If you didn't share it, make sure that you get it up so other people can see your ideas. Awesome. I am now gonna toss it to Georgia.
Yes. Hello again. So for those of you that were here last time, we talked about what maximizes us and what minimizes us. We're going to revisit that for folks that are new. And also because part of it is this journey that we're on to create shared language with each other so we can learn how to communicate, so that we can learn how we communicate, how to be our best selves and how to respect each other, because we're not trying to achieve sameness. That's not the world certainly that I'm fighting for, but I want a world where we can be respected, where there's space enough for each of us to be our whole selves, and where we can engage in a dialogue that allows us to really maximize what it means to learn, to change, to make new choices, to try things on, to say that we don't like them, to fail. And in order to do that, we need to develop that language. So part of the maximize, minimize exercise is to create that language where I can say, hey, Althea, that thing that you did really maximizes me, or that thing you did really minimizes me. And Althea doesn't have to take it as a personal insult, because Althea wants to maximize me out of respect. And so we both win. And it's a really, it's a really important piece of communication that often gets overlooked. So I'm wondering, friends, we'll start with minimize so that we can end on maximize. What are some things in your life, in your day, that can be repeats from last week? What are some things that make you feel like you want to close down, that make you feel like you can't be your best self? And just to reiterate, it's totally okay if what minimizes me maximizes Melissa. That's beautiful. We're all different, beautiful, whole people. And that's one of the things we want to celebrate, but we can't celebrate it unless we know about it. So for you, individual, what are some things that minimize you? Anyone, take yourself off mute. Let's get messy on Zoom. Rico, what minimizes you? I'm gonna call on people. So just
being tired minimizes me.
Facts, big facts.
This week especially, for whatever reason, this is going to sound super materialistic, but when people use my shit and don't ask permission first, is minimizing in a way that feels petty. And then you're like, but no, that just ask me. So yeah, that was a minimizing theme this week so far.
What's up? Thank you for sharing that. I'm about petty sometimes, sometimes we got to be petty. Sometimes you get a frowny face on social media. What are some other minimizers?
I guess feeling like it's hard to get a word in, which is a common Zoom problem, just because it's hard. We don't have the same social cues as when we're in person together. So like reading where someone's ready to pause versus when you're interrupting is really challenging. But I feel minimized when it's like, I want to say something about something being said, but I don't know how to say it or interject in a way that's not disruptive. So yeah, I guess like minimize would be a lack of pauses for that.
Beautiful, thank you for that. Yeah, I love that reminder of just, for me, the importance of having silence and pauses to make space for people. Other minimizers? Alice, you got a minimizer? Nice to see you.
Hey. I think one of the things that just popped for me was it minimizes me to see or hear sometimes when people oof, uh, when capitalism just hits hard.
Preach. Say that. Thank you so much. All right, one more minimizer and we'll get to the maximizers. What's something that minimizes you or makes you feel like you just don't want to participate?
I'll go when I feel like I'm not being understood. I just kind of want to crawl back. It's like, I did my best. You don't understand me. I don't understand why. So I just sort of withdraw.
Yes, thank you so much for sharing that. That's so real. And what about maximizers? What are things that happen sometimes, or the way that spaces are made, or people that make you feel like you are your best self, make you feel that you can learn anything and try anything, and you know that you're just kind of glowing with life? What does that look like and feel like? What makes that happen?
I'll go again because I like a good joke. I mean, a good joke always like makes everybody feel better. So,
Yes.
A good joke.
Laughter, absolutely. Other maximizers? Thank you so much for sharing. Wanda, you got a maximizer?
Sure, even still from last week, but it is like my biggest thing. When it's okay for me to shine. Right? Yes. Sometimes you know, you can glare in folks' eyes or whatever, and they react poorly. And I love when I can shine and everybody can shine. How about that one?
I love that. Awesome. One more? Can we have one more maximizer? Isabella, lovely to see you. It's been so long. How are you and how are you maximized?
Hi. It's good to see you too. I'm doing okay. This week was kind of long, I miss going outside, but all the smoke, so I guess not right now. I think right now I'm feeling really maximized by connecting to my garden and my plants and just watching them grow and thrive even as times are really hard right now.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. Beautiful. Well, thanks everyone for the maximizers and minimizers. You can keep dumping them into the chat. It's not a static thing. They grow and they change, and you know, we grow and we change, and one day something might minimize us that maximizes the next day, and that is part of the beautiful process of life. So we'll revisit it next session. And shaving my head maximizes me. Yes, beautiful. And Jonathan, I'll turn it over to you for some more shared vocabulary.
Yes, thank you so much. Can we get the slide deck up again? Really appreciate everyone sharing and contributing to this. Yes, shaved head. As you all may or may not notice, I'm with the shaved head crew. Next slide. Yeah, so what we want to do just quickly, I'm going to review, these are some of the shared language that we built out from last week, and then Erin's gonna talk about this week. But again, just for the sake of time, I'm only gonna pull out a couple definitions. So the first one, just because we were acknowledging that all of our issues that we're talking about through the series are interconnected, I'm just gonna pull out racial justice and just naming that, again, racial justice is a systemic and fair treatment of people of all races resulting and equitable opportunities and outcomes for all. So when we're talking about fighting for racial justice, that's what we're really naming. And also, like, we have some framing available for folks around race versus ethnicity and nationality, as well as implicit bias. And again, as we mentioned last week, all these slide decks will be available for folks to reference and to continue to think through as we continue to vision even beyond this space. Next slide. Another definition I want to pull out again for our time together is intersectionality. Again, a quote from Melissa Harris Perry, I'm paraphrasing, is have you quoted a powerful Black woman today? And so again, a part of like gender justice is also not letting the work of Black women and femmes and other folks be erased. And so acknowledging that intersectionality was not something that popped up in the world 2 years ago. It was actually coined by Kimberly Crenshaw, I believe back in the 1970s, and referring to the interconnectedness of the issues that we're facing. And as we're talking through those things, just wanting to like name that and uplift that for our space as we go through today. Again, we'll have the slides available and the materials available for folks to continue to dive in later. But with that, I'm actually going to hand it over to Aaron, who's going to take us through some definitions that are going to ground us for our conversation about gender justice today.
I'm gonna remember to unmute myself so that I can talk to everyone. So again, remembering that the goal of this workshop is for us to have some time together, both in small groups and in large groups, to really have a conversation about the things that we're talking about here today as it relates to gender justice. I'm not going to spend a ton of time running through all of these definitions. We've got a few things up here that we're also going to put up on the website, and you're going to be hearing these terms a lot. We have the gender elephant, which Jonathan was so lovely enough to put up here, which I super, super love. And like I said, we're going to put this up on the website so folks can walk through this. But you're going to be hearing terms for us today from participants today around gender, sex, binary, non-binary, trans, gender fluid, LGBTQI. Like I said, we're going to put this image up on the website. If we can go to the next slide, it's going to walk us through. Oh, sorry, boom, I was a little nervous. So there's a few terms that we've got here just to walk through for a quick second. One of them is non-binary. So folks may have heard this before. Non-binary or genderqueer is a spectrum of gender identities that is non-exclusive to masculine or feminine identities that are outside of the gender binary, right? So binary is two, right? One or the other. So male or female is the binary that has the gender binary, if you hear that. Non-binary is simply understanding that there are identities and a spectrum of identities that exist outside of that. Transgender, obviously, I think a lot of folks have heard this word, understand what this word is. The definition that we have here, transgender people have a gender identity or gender expression that differs from their sexual identity assigned at birth. We also have gender fluidity, which goes back again to that term about binary. So fluidity just relates to a person whose gender identity is not fixed. And then finally, we've got a very long acronym, which I'm going to try to get in just one breath. I think I can do it. LGBTQIAP. Let's go. I was in speech therapy for the first 3 years of elementary school. I feel very proud of myself right now. That is lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, intersex, asexual, and pansexual. You may have noticed that that acronym has grown, and that's a wonderful thing as the community has grown and we begin to identify and understand and accept and explore other identities as well. So in the spirit of fluidity, that acronym will grow as we grow as well. So get ready for more letters after that. It's exciting. So right now, I'm going to just make sure, I think I'm going to toss it back over to Jonathan. Am I getting that right?
Georgia, actually.
Oh, it's to Georgia. I'm sorry. I apologize. To Georgia, and we're going to do the fun stuff, which is collective visioning. Hit it, Georgia.
Thanks, Fran. I'm actually going to we talked a little about this last time. For the sake of time, I'm going to kind of fly through just a couple big concepts, and we can keep talking about them on Facebook on the event page. We really want folks to engage. Thank you so much for everything that you've shared. But the three things I want to name before we get into visioning is the politics of imagining. We already talked about collective struggle not sameness. It's okay that we don't know the answer. It's okay that it's messy. The second point being the privilege of imagining that, we're really lucky that we can carve out this time. It's a privilege to be able to have time to reflect. There are people who get to reflect that have more leisure time in different ways. So just being really mindful about the way that privilege is manifesting in these spaces of visioning and imagining, and the power of imagining and what we can manifest. and that it's okay that it's messy because we're practicing, because we're building muscle, and we're developing that power. So really kind of being in the process. So the politics of imagining, the privilege of imagining, the power of imagining are all part of that bigger conversation. So I'm going to move it. I'm going to move past that. We can keep that conversation going in the chat and in our small groups, but we really want to get to some of the visioning. So Jonathan.
Actually, again, per usual, I'm going to follow George's leadership and actually what we can do with the support of our tech team. And again, my apologies, charged to my head, not my heart, but definitely want to shout out all of the folks who are working behind the scenes to support us. So shout out to y'all. But actually, if we could, rather than kind of going back to the slide deck, what we'll do is just throw the prompts that we have for this today's session around gender justice. And then we'll actually hand it over to Rika, who's going to take us through the writing exercise and the main core of what we're going to engage in for tonight. But when we're thinking about gender justice, and again, this will be in the chat, as well, we're kind of the prompts we were thinking through as a group, as we're pulling this together, is like, the three prompts are, I'm fighting for a future where I don't live in fear of sexual violence. I am fighting for a future where trans people are safe. I am fighting for a future where my gender is celebrated rather than feared. And again, these are just some prompts to get us thinking in the mode as like we go into the writing exercise to kind of think through what can gender justice look like in terms of the future that we're all trying to fight for. Really appreciate folks. We'll throw that in the chat so folks have it available that way. But we really want to just jump right into the writing activity and get folks started into what we're going to be doing for tonight.
Word. So it is my time now. Cool. So I'm going to be sharing slides as well as talking. So I'll kick it off. Before I get into the slide deck, I'm really excited to share a practice that that has been really helpful for me, which is object writing. And so let me get into it real quick. The goal of this exercise is basically going to be to tap into the fact that we are all knowers. And I think sometimes in writing, there's so many layers of us being told that we don't know how to do this or that it has to be a certain way that it's hard to even get to the thing because we're standing in our own way. So this is an activity that for me is really, really helpful in that in particular. So let's start off with this lovely quote by Alice Walker. And so our mothers and grandmothers have more often than not anonymously handed on the creative spark, the seed of the flower they themselves never hoped to see, or like a sealed letter they could not plainly read. I love this quote, not just because of, again, that idea of like, you have it in you already, you have that creativity in you and it's been passed on to you, but that idea of like, there's a letter that you couldn't read. And so if you can tap into the unconscious, then it makes that creative visioning a little bit easier. And I know last week I was having some trouble imagining a beautiful world when everything is so terrible around me. So I'm hoping that we can kind of shake a little bit of that today. So we're gonna do that through object writing. And this is how it works. It's quite simple. It is actually, the amount of time isn't so important. There's a website called objectwriting.com. You can go this every single day. There's just one word of the day and it has a timer for 10 minutes. That's how I like to do it. We're gonna do it in 3, We're gonna just trim that right down. But the idea is I'm gonna give you a word, and with object writing, it is always a noun. It's always a concrete object rather than something abstract like love. You'll go with something physical like, I don't know, a hand. And so then you're going to write and explore that word through 7 senses. And so the 7 senses that I'm referring to would be, of course, your taste, your touch, your sight, your smell, and your hearing. But in addition to that, body. So like if you walk into a cold room and then the hair on the back of your neck raises, that's not because you felt something, but there is something felt, right? You can feel in ways that don't involve touching something. And then there's another type of feeling, which of course be motion. If I'm on a roller coaster and I feel something in my stomach, that's a different feeling than my hands on the rail of the roller coaster. And I'm happy to pause here before I go to the next slide where I actually show you the word. So before we get into that, I want to make sure everybody's clear on what it is we're doing. So if folks have questions, I'm going to take a little bit of space for that. Any questions about what we're going to do? I can only see like 9 of you, so I don't see anything in the chat. Love it. Okay, cool. So when I hit this slide, we're going to go to the word, okay? So I want you to grab a paper and pen if you haven't already. and get ready to write. Again, explore for the full 3 minutes. If you think you're done after 30 seconds, you're not. If you think you have another 2 minutes to go at 3 minutes, I invite you to stop anyway and just pause and let that thought be complete, because that's really a big part of the exercise. So without further ado, here's your word. It's fruit. So let's write for 3 minutes about fruit and explore it through all 7 senses. So you can finish the last sentence that you're writing. Don't put too many conjunctions, please. And get to that period, not the semicolon. If you haven't already, you want to take a second to just look over what you wrote, and then if there are any folks who feel inclined to share, that would be great. I definitely think of these as like a trampoline. I mean, you may have a finished product, you might have written something that you're like, this is dope, let's send it off. But I definitely think of it as a starting place for writing. But if anyone wants to share what they wrote, that would be beautiful.
You picked one of my favorite topics. So you said fruit, but I wrote about a peach. The sweetness of the peach on my tongue, the small dribbles on my chin and fingers, the fuzzy smell as it tickles my nostrils, the sound the pit makes colliding with my teeth. My stomach jumps up and kicks up its little feet when it sees peaches in season sign, because my stomach can see and walk and feel. The coolness on my hand as I hold it fresh from the fridge, and the unhappiness I feel when I must cut away a bruised spot.
Thank you. Yeah, I think one of the things I love about this exercise is it makes it really easy for me to see or feel like I'm seeing through your eyes, or either that or I'm seeing your peach as if it was in my experience and stuff like that. I think people can connect to through the senses. Anybody else want to share?
In this case, it made me think of a specific fruit too. But I said, when I think of fruit, it makes me think of my childhood. It reminds me of the smell of mangoes on the beach on a sunny day. I remember feeling the cool sea breeze touch my super crispy, sun-kissed face from all the long summer days. I would hunch over and squeeze the square-cut mango into my mouth. The mango streaks of the mango would get stuck in my teeth, and I would continue to try and push them out with my tongue unsuccessfully.
Awesome. Thank you.
That was amazing. I think, Rico, first of all, thank you so much for leading us on that. Can you tell me again, Rico? It's called Object? What was it called? Can you tell folks again?
The exercise is called object writing. And it's really like considered a springboard. And there's a website, objectwriting.com, that you can go to, and it's literally every single day is a different word, and it has a timer on the website. It's great.
That's wonderful. Well, if you enjoyed that, definitely find a chance to go to that website. Try that again, share. If you get a chance to do it and you like it, share it on the Facebook. We'd love to see what people write. Well, I think I might do that tomorrow. So if anyone wants to do it, and then we'll put them up on there. People can share. So that would be lovely. Thank you so much, Rico. Objectwriting.com. Awesome. Well, now I think what we're going to do is, yes, this is great. We're going to do this. Oh my God, writing group. Yeah. We're going to transition into small groups where we're going to talk about our visions. We're going to discuss what they look like, how they connect to the last session. Please remember also, right, we talked about racial justice last week. We're talking about gender justice this week. We're talking about climate justice next week. All of those things are interconnected. One cannot happen without the other, right? So not only are we going to be having the conversation about gender justice today, but think about tying that back to racial justice, and think about this future conversation that we're going to have about climate change as well, and climate justice, and how all of those things are tied together. So I am not going to do the tech, which I'm super excited about because I was a little nervous about it. Georgia's going to do the tech, but we're all going to drop into small groups. So you'll get a little thing that says, go over here. So go to your group, hang out, and then we will come back and we'll do a quick share with everyone about what they did. All right, Georgia, are you ready to go?
I'm ready to go. So for people that are new to breakout rooms, it's a little bit jarring sometimes. So you'll be abruptly transported into another virtual room and then transported back. Okay.
Star Trek, y'all. Let's do it.
On your mark, get set. It's not going to be that fast. Okay, we're going to go.
I need that part.
Okay, here we go. Farewell. See you soon. So yeah, I'd love to hear from folks. We're going to kind of skip the small group report back and fold it into the big group collective visioning, where if you want to share something that has come up for you, if you want to share poetry or a song or a drawing or just any manifestation of what this vision is, any kind of playfulness, it can be something that you prepped ahead of time or something that you just thought of, but like we're really trying to think about how we can get into this play and carve space to, you know, the Buddhist teacher Pema talks about how we move past being embarrassed about our humanness so that we can explore the fullness of our ability to be in our own bodies. Yes, no shame, exactly. And it takes practice because we're taught, because of capitalism and white supremacy and all these things, to be embarrassed by our own humanness. So let's do some manifesting. What do folks feel like sharing? Any poems? Do people want to share what they wrote about fruit? What they talked about in their group? Oh, sorry.
I was going to say, I have something to share. It's not really a poem, though, if that's okay.
Of course.
It's actually just kind of a concept that I articulated. It's pretty short. It says, "This is such a central lie, that what makes you good at love is feeling innocently unworthy of it. When of course, the truth is, what makes you good at love is knowing you have value so that you can express what you want to feel and give, so that you can ask for what you truly wish to receive." That's it. That's it. Just a concept. That's it.
Thank you so much for sharing that. Yeah, concepts, that's what we need. You know, we need new ones. Thank you. What else do people have? And it doesn't, you know, there doesn't have to be titles. You know, I think we've done ourselves a disservice as a society, and this is part of capitalism that has taken things like music and dance and the wholeness of the human experience and pushed it into this idea that it only belongs to experts. And that's not true. And we all deserve the space to play and to be in our bodies, and to, you know, rhythm is deeply, deeply, deeply a part of our brain. It can't be separated out. So there's no, like Jonathan said earlier, there's no right way, there's no wrong way.
Can I share something?
Yes, please.
I did some art. I've been reflecting a lot on the workshop and kind of coming to it, but as I mentioned before, I'm from Egypt, and Egypt is sort of going through its own Me Too movement right now. There's a lot of sexual violence, and in part of the kind of everyday culture there, and a lot of people have been speaking up for the first time, and it's just brought up a lot of painful memories, but also, you know, beautiful memories in some ways of, you know, feeling strong, speaking up, doing all of those things. But it just inspired me to put it all in kind of art form. And apologize for my art, it's very childlike. I say that I'm very good at copy and paste, but yeah, it's sort of just a manifestation of a lot of things and spaces and memories from my childhood. And yeah, I feel like it's going to be growing over time. But one thing that came up in our group conversation was space. And as I was working on this, I kind of just envisioned a very inclusive space. I find that, you know, I'm sorry, I'm repeating what I shared with the small group, but, you know, white cis men take up a lot of space. And I just imagine a world where space is shared and we can all kind of flow and take up and give space in a more loving way. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That's beautiful. Thank you for sharing.
I mean, I'll share if that's okay. Instructor share time. I really liked Rico's object. So I was gonna read what I wrote for that. When I think about fruit, I always think about oranges. Growing up, when I was a kid, I had 4 orange trees in my backyard. And the 4 trees sat on the 4 corners of my backyard. When I ran out into our garden, the first smell that always hit me was the smell of orange trees. The oranges marked so many important points in my childhood. I can still taste orange slices at halftimes of soccer games, juices running down my arms. I remember the feeling of getting a cold orange, freshly picked by Santa, in my stocking at Christmas. I remember asking my mother for an explanation about how Santa had cold oranges. She said he got him from our backyard. I thought that meant Santa was a thief. Thanks, Rico.
Thank you, Erin. That was awesome. When people think of play and what it looks like to play, what comes to mind? I'll share. Well, it's funny because I thought about it when I was thinking about what does the world I'm fighting for look like and feel like, and then it came up again because the word was fruit. But I was recently doing some work in Cuba, and last year when there was travel, and I was at this collective farm where they were growing mangoes, and I picked a mango up off the ground, and one of the people that was part of the collective said, well, you should just eat it. And I thought, I don't know how to eat this mango without, I didn't have a knife and I didn't have any way to cut it. And he took it and he just took his teeth and he ripped the skin off and then handed it back to me. And then I just buried my whole face into the most I don't even have words for how delicious it was. With the texture and the ideas of abundance and sweetness and like what fills your brain and the messiness and the stickiness. And it was so perfect. And I remember thinking like, I will never again have a mango this good. And then I thought, but that's not true because I will, because tomorrow I'll come back to this collective farm. And I didn't know if it was good because of the collective work, because of the health of the soil, because of the health of the culture, because it was the perfect amount of ripeness, but it was so, like just how much sweeter everything tastes when there is more justice, was what I walked away feeling, and also very sticky. And if you've never tried to eat a mango with just your teeth, I highly suggest it.
One of the things I wrote in my free association on fruit was mangoes are annoying to cut. My entire group, we all agreed that we did the free writing wrong. We were like just listing things and like doing free association and not writing full sentences. So like I just have a list of words that ends with peaches make my mouth itch, but I eat them anyway. And so I feel like at a slam poetry contest, I would have done like real good. But outside of that, I think I did the whole thing wrong. But I do like that our group just sort of got into the group and we were like, what are we supposed to do in the group? And what we ended up doing was just sharing our reflections on fruit and our items. And I thought, I joked about it before we left, but I do think it is true that the vision of the future that we were imagining was freestyle. It was like everybody shows up in a room and we're like, what are we supposed to do? And we just sort of laughed and shared about how we did shit wrong, and then we got booted out into the rest of the world. And that felt right. That felt like the vision that I am having right now.
Awesome. Victoria, that seems very appropriate. Does one more person want to share a story or what play looks like for them, or a reflection or a poem or someone else's poem? One more, Trillia? Oh, we'll do 2 more. Trillia and Lily. Love it.
Okay, so hi everyone. So I was like doodling a little bit during the session and didn't really know what was going to come out of it. But then in our group, we were talking about this idea. I was saying my friend has a little girl who's 2, and this idea of how to raise her in a way that celebrates her body and where she feels protected, and she's, you know, she's not ashamed, but she's also taking care of herself, and she's enveloped in joy. And this idea that like in the past we knew how to do that. It was easier. We had societies that were built around that. And so I just wrote a little poem for her. So it goes, little one, you are whole. Little one, you are loved. Little one, you are wild, you are free, you are ours, we are yours. Little one, take our joy. Little one, go and run. Little one, feel the sand in your toes, the wind in your hair, the sun on your face. Little one, you are whole.
Oh. Thanks, Trillia. Lily, do you wanna share?
Sure. It's a little messy, but when you prompted on like what brings me joy is something that's a little messy, which is playing the dozens when I was growing up. Like we would just crack on each other and make fun of each other and come for each other. And at the end of it, we'd be friends and we'd love each other. And, you know, I was hesitant to share. This is what came up, but I was hesitant to share because it's like, you're gonna lean in and make fun, but it's this space of trust that was created. And I was just thinking this week I had to have some real hard conversations with a coworker about how we were showing up with each other, how we were treating each other in the work. And I realized that as you were asked, those spaces had actually provided an opportunity for me to understand what it's like to push and lean into uncomfortable feelings, but not fall apart, because I knew ultimately we were in this, we're gonna come out of this together. And so, I don't know, that's when you asked that question, I just really quickly went to like when I was growing up and we would just crack on each other and it would go dark sometimes and sometimes it would go funny. But like just that sense of like not taking it too serious, doing it in love. It's a piece sometimes that I feel is missing because we're trying to be so good, so right, so this, and then the change doesn't come because we're too stuck in a version of what it should look like instead of going through the version it is so that it can be the version it can be. That any of that made sense at all.
Yeah, that was beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing. I love that too, as a like pulled out theme of like how we can be comfortable being uncomfortable and how that brings us to so much growth. Thank you, everybody. I have gone over my time slot.
Hold on, you're not done going over.
Oh,
sorry. There's one more thing. Because
Mo, you know, you're like,
sorry.
Mom, I can't not listen to you. It's okay.
You can't stop me, Georgia.
I know.
Lily, the messiness, I think, is part of the beauty of it. And it's messy, but that's part of the growth and it's part of the progress. Also, the first time I ate a mango, I was a teenager in Germany and I had no idea what it was because it was before like they trucked fruit across the country. And so I ate it with my teeth. It was not the experience that you had. Well, and Trillia, I have to tell you, where are you on my screen? Oh my God, that poem was so lovely. And I'm gonna share my screen for a second because this is what I've been thinking about all day. Because I'm about to start homeschooling my kids. Oh, it's disabled. I cannot share my screen. Okay, oh. I'll just tell you. It's okay. It's not that big of a deal. It just says, it's a quote that says, stop breaking yourself down into bite-sized pieces. Stay whole and let them choke. And so I have like these little bites of wisdom that I've stolen from the internet about how I want my kids to learn for this school year and maybe forever. I don't know if I can ever recover from it. But one of the things that we talked about in our small group was that my hope is that they will not have to be unprogrammed, because they won't have to have all the fuckery, sorry for the F-bomb, no kids in the house, okay. But they won't have to deal with all of as much fucked upness that I've had to deal with. And then I was telling them that my small group, I was telling them that my kids are pretty sure that Black women run the world, because in their world that happens. And so they're like, well, yeah, duh. I mean, you know, that really is their, you know, that really is their, they're like, yeah, of course Black Lives Matter. Why the fuck are we having to say that? That's just dumb. They don't really say the F-bomb. But I keep thinking about what it means, what would it mean to create this place where they were whole already, because they come in whole. They're like the wholest they've ever been when they come into this world. And then what if we didn't chip away at them and make them give their pieces away and hug people they don't know, and all this fucked up stuff that happens to little kids, and how they are such an incredible teacher, and all of the play that they do. It's like sometimes I just watch them and listen to them all day, and I'm like, what are they doing? They're like, they just come up with all this different stuff, and it's fascinating, and what they learn and who they are is so beautiful. And what if we just held them in this container and they got to be safe and loved and fed, of course fed, but and watered and had sunlight, and then they just grew into whatever it was they were going to be, and they weren't picked at and torn apart and made to feel less than because they're women or Black or whatever the fuck. And so that is my hope for all of you, that is the world that we create together. Because I don't know you all very well, but I think I love you all. So that's all. Sorry we went over time.
No, Melissa, thank you so much for sharing. That was really beautiful and really profound insights, and thank you. And I will save the fact that you got very mad at me once when I played with your daughter and we got a little bit sandy. And with that, I will turn it over to Jonathan because I got scolded.
Quote unquote, a little bit.
Yes, I will never quite get used to the spotlight feature, but we're just going to go with it. I'm just going to chat for a moment, and then I'm actually going to hand it back to you, Erin, so we can do close out next steps, because we do want to be mindful of time. But like, yeah, one last prompt that we have for folks is just again, we know not everyone has the opportunity to share, but if everyone could take some time just to hop in the chat and just kind of give us one word of how you're feeling. Just based on like what we've talked about in this space. For me, I'm feeling a lot of emotions because I'm holding the fact that like over the weekend, 3 trans folks were brutalized and attacked, and knowing that we still live in an extremely violent world where trans folks, gender expansive folks, women and femmes don't get to be safe, are experiencing all levels and kinds of violence. And also I'm holding the deep joy and love that's been shared on this call and what Melissa has offered in terms of like the world that we're trying to build for like the next generation, the things that we're trying to like really repair and work on for our generation and things to come. And so just really thinking about as we continue to envision what this thing that we're building together around gender justice, just really holding the multitudes and really just wrestling with that, but also being okay with that. As Erin says, be like water, and holding the fact that we can hold multiple things at multiple times, and we can build and grow as we're doing this thing. So I'm going to hand it off to Erin, who's going to talk a little bit about next steps and closing. But just wanted to offer that to the space that like, as we continue to wrestle with these things, knowing that there's space, there's room for you here, and there's space to hold all of what each of us are bringing to this space.
I really appreciate that, Jonathan. Oh, am I muted? I really appreciate that, Jonathan. Yeah, it's something that story is something that definitely personally touches me. One of the men that attacked those women actually goes to the college that I graduated from. And so I think it's bringing a reckoning to the college I went to about attitudes around trans folks on that campus, and I hope for other folks too. So and it's horrible that those lessons are happening on the bodies of trans folks all across the country. So thank you for bringing that up. And I want to just say too, as we have these conversations in the small groups and the large groups, that this is not just a conversation that we want to end here, So continue not just to have these conversations with yourself, with your peers, with folks that are in your house that you're talking to. You can also put it on the Facebook group. I really, really encourage people to use either Facebook group, Instagram, Twitter. If you're not in any of those, you got my email, just slide into my email and give it to me and I'll post it up there for you. Boom, boom, boom. 2 birds, 1 stone. We're not going to talk about birds. Make sure that you have photos and videos. You can add those to the altar, to the montage that we have. We have the hashtag that you can use too, hashtag fight the future we fight for. So use the hashtag. There is a discussion section on the Facebook group. So if you're on the app or on the desktop too, I'm not on Facebook desktop a lot, but if you click on discussion, it'll click right over for you and you'll be able to see stuff that folks have posted. We are going to make sure also that we're going to get prepared for our next session too. We're going to be closing out. 3 is my favorite number, so I'm super excited for session number 3. We're going to be talking about climate justice. So that's going to be really, really excited. And invite your friends, invite all the cool folks you know. And before we go out, I just want to make sure that folks remember that we're super excited to have you here. We're super excited to share this vision with you. Both Greenpeace and Frailty Myths are both member-based organizations, and as such, we are funded, run, and operative because of incredible people like you that give the pennies and dollars that you have to make sure that we can fulfill our missions. So make sure you go to frailtymyths.org, greenpeace.org. You can check out both the missions of both the organizations. They're very similar. They just have cuter animals. We have people, they got cuter animals than us. For sure. I got a dog. That's about it. They got like whales. But yeah, go to both organizations. Make sure you check it out. Like I said, we're both member-based organizations, so we're able to do incredible work because of incredible people like you. We're like PBS without Elmo. With that being said, I'm going to toss it back to Georgia, and we're going to finish with a nice little breathing meditation exercise to soothe us out. Georgia?
Yes, thank you, Erin. Thank you for all of that. And thanks everybody for what you shared, for holding the space. It's really, one of the things that is true for all Frailty Myths workshops is that, and this one as well, is that every workshop is an organic process of us growing together and taking that growth together and back into our lives. And I am just so grateful for that. It is always healing. So with that, we're going to close out the same way that we started. We're kind of going to put all of those 3 things together. So being mindful of our physical bodies, mindful that the earth that supports us, and mindful of the collective space that we hold. So if folks want to come off mute, I invite you to do that. And just to say about our throats, one of the things I find really powerful about that particular way of holding myself is that, you know, so much of this conversation we're holding is that our voices are silenced, or we're told and taught to feel shame, to feel like we're not worthy, to feel like we're not enough, to feel like we're not adequate, to feel like we have something to prove. And none of that is true. So when we constrict our breath and feel it push through our throat, it is also a reminder that we have everything that we need and that we're already enough, and that we can use our heart and our throats to speak that truth and to love others the same way. So with that, just take a moment and feel the earth under your body. Put one hand on your chest so you can feel your heart rise up to meet your hand, and your other on your throat. And we'll take a deep breath in. And then hold, and then hush your voice so that you can hear your breath exhale. And we'll do one more deep breath in. And out. And I am so looking forward to next week. And Rico, I think, is going to share the altar. If you haven't had a moment with it, please, you can stay on for a few more minutes. I'm so grateful to all that you've shared. It has brought me to tears every day, the different small gestures and tokens of people's lives that hold so much joy and memory and power. And so thank you for sharing them with the group. And I hope you all enjoy the week and keep imagining. And please visit us on Facebook, and we'll see you on Thursday. And if you want to come off mute and say goodbye or stay on.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone. Be amazing.